Hi, good morning, everyone. Welcome to class today. My name is Joshua, and an ICT instructor at Blessed Children Academy, and also a representative of CodeNet Solutions, the body aimed at providing web design and development solutions to individuals, organizations, and okay, all right. Today's class we will be looking at HTML images. Okay, and let's take a walk through our previous class where we actually learned about attributes in HTML, and then we said attributes basically are used to provide additional information, okay, to HTML elements, and we saw some examples of attributes. We went further to use one of them being the style attribute, with which we're able to change the background color of our web page. And so today we're looking at a very interesting aspect of web design and development being HTML images. Now, your web page will be so boring without an image. You know, the presence of an image in a web page adds beauty, okay, and life to the web page. So we want to see, how do I add images to my web page? What are the things I need to do to add images to my web page? But first, let's look at what uh, some few notes, okay? Images are added to a web page using the image tag. Now remember that the elements of a web page are created using tag in HTML. Remember that. And so we're looking at the image tag, okay, the IMG, okay, starting with, as you can see, starting with the less than symbol IMG image tag. Now, one thing to note about the image tag is this. The image tag is empty. When I mean empty, it has no content. Unlike, okay, let's take for instance the paragraph tag, where you open your paragraph tag, you close it. In between the opening and the closing, you have some content, okay, which forms the element. In this case, for the image tag, it is usually empty. Rather, it contains attributes only. You can see again, attributes it's coming into play here. It contains attributes only. Now let's see another note about the image tag. The image tag is a self-closing tag. I'll take that again. The image tag is a self-closing tag. So again, as we progress in our learning, it's important to be able to differentiate which tag is a self-closing tag, which tag has an opening and closing tag. Okay, it's very good you know all of this. And let's move on to the next slide. Okay, now that we've seen what is needed to create or add an image to your HTML web page, okay, now let's see. If you remember from the last slide, we said the image takes in attributes. So what are those attributes? There are two basic attributes. In fact, so far so good. The image tag takes two major attributes. Major. Now that doesn't mean you can't add other attributes. Of course, you can add other attributes to probably style your image, okay? But what really brings in the image into your web page are these attributes. Number one, the source attribute represented with SRC. You can see the source attribute SRC. Now, this specifies the path to the image. I'm going to explain this in the next slide. And then the second attribute is alt, A-L-T, okay, an alternative text. In other words, it's a caption, a written text you write, okay, that also appears just in case the image does not load, or if you point to the image, it pops up. It's like a name for the image in quotes. I'm just using that so you understand better. So let's see exactly how do we use, what's the syntax for adding image to HTML. It's quite simple. First of all, we'll begin by writing the image tag image. Then we'll leave a space, the source attribute. Remember, your attributes are immediately followed by an equal sign, which It shows you assigning a value. And then immediately I have my double quotation mark and the value inside, in this case, a URL. Please, I want us to note this. Now, the value for the source attribute is usually a URL when I'm adding image. What does URL stands for? URL stands for Uniform Resource Locator, which specifies the location of the image. In other words, if you remember at the inception of this class, I taught you guys the first thing to do when you are to create a web page is create a project folder. Now, if you remember, in that project folder, we said you're going to have three subdirectories or folders. Number one was image, img folder. And if you remember, I told you what the image folder will do is it holds every image you are going to put in your website. So what does that mean? It means the URL, it's like, okay, I want to add an image to this website, but where is this image? Where do I have it? That's the job of the URL. So the URL points to the location, points to the part where you have the image, grabs it, and displays it on the page for you. Now, again, you can see the alt here, which stands for alternative text. Just like this is not really necessary, but it is ideal. Okay, it is ideal that you always add an alternate, and the value of the alternate attribute should always be a name corresponding to the image. Take for instance, you want to add image of a flower. Now it's going to be very wrong to say school image. Your alternate text should be probably the name of the flower or what the flower symbolizes as it were. So let's see what we have in the next slide. So so far so good. It's time to go into coding. Okay, we've seen what the image, how to add HTML image. We've seen, okay, to add your image you require two attributes. Now let's get into coding and put into practice what we've just seen from the slides below. So I'm going to quickly switch between this and my text editor, and in this case I'm going to be using Sublime Text. Okay, so here is my text editor, Sublime Text. Of course, feel free to use any text editor of your choice, but as I always say, for learning purpose I usually recommend Notepad for students. Now, why Notepad? Notepad allows you, with Notepad you get to type every single line and dot by yourself. Okay, and that makes, for me, it makes you conversant with the codes. Okay, unlike some advanced text editor that gives you options and help you out with abbreviations and the rest. Okay, so for beginners, for learning purpose, however, feel free to use any text editor of your choice. In this case, I'm using Sublime Text, and I'm just going to start from the scratch. So those of you who are not picking or who didn't pick in the previous class would follow. So the first thing I want to do before I start everything, if you notice the name of my file is on title. So the first thing I want to do is save this file. So I'm going to do that by clicking File, okay, and then I'm going to click on Save As, okay, because I want to save this file for the very first time. And then again, I'll quickly create a project folder in this case. Okay, just like I taught you in the previous class, and I want to save this work, let's say on the desktop or my document. Okay, let's just say on the desktop, and then I'll click on the new folder icon, and then I'm going to name this folder image. Okay, so I'll just say adding image. Okay, then I'll click open. So while we're waiting for it to open, okay, I'm quickly just going to tag this file as index.html, and then I'm going to save. Okay, I'm going to save. Now if you notice what I have up here now, it's now index.html. Okay, all right, so the first thing I want to do, we'll begin with what? Declaration statement. So which is what? My less than symbol, exclamation mark, doc type, then space HTML. Okay, that's the first thing I want to do. That's the first line of my code in HTML. I'll press the enter key, and then the next line is HTML. I'll open my HTML and I'll close the HTML. Now I observe a lot of you, okay, you will just open a tag, put content, you don't close it. So I make it the best practice to open and close my tag. Then in between the opening and closing tag, I'll press my end content. Now immediately after my HTML, I have my head. Okay, open again and close my head. Okay, and then in between I'm going to have my title, okay, which tells you the title of the page. Now you can see as I type this thing, suggestions are popping up. Okay, that's one of the reasons I don't recommend this for beginners, because with this you just want to forget about sticking the tags to your head, but at least I'm ignoring the suggestions, which we call emet abbreviations, and just go ahead with my typing. So we'll just call this adding, give it a content, adding image to your, or adding image. Let's just adding image, and then I'll save, and then I'll go out here. After my head is what? Body. After my head, I'll open and close the body. Okay, and then within the opening and closing body is where I have all the content of my web page. So here now I want to add my image. Now I'm going to what? Open the image tag. Can you see it now? Of course, remember the image tag is a self-closing tag, so I don't do open and close. I just type the image, but then I need to put in two attributes. So space, the first attribute is what? Source, SRC, the source attribute, which is followed by equal to, and then double quotation. Okay, can you see that? Double quotes. Then the URL. The URL in this case is where do I have this image? Where do I have this image? Now remember, I taught you should always create a folder for your image. So the first thing I'll type, and that folder is what? IMG. It's the name we gave to the folder. Okay, now I'm going to put a backslash and the name of the image. In this case, let's say we have an image here called okay, then very importantly is the extension of that image. Say logo.png. I'm just going to use it, say logo.png. Very important is the extension of this image, and then we save. Okay, now we want to come out of this and then give a space, use the alt attribute again, followed by equal to your double quotation mark. Alt is just an alternative text. So in this case, I'm going to call it, say, logo image. I'll just call it logo image. Okay, and then we'll save. So now the next thing is I need to run this in the browser to see. Let's see exactly what we have done. Let's see exactly what we've done. So for me to do this, where did I save this? I saved this on my desktop. So I'm just going to open my file explorer. Okay, and then from my file explorer, I'll quickly move on to my desktop, and then let's see, while we're waiting for the file explorer to come up, I want to believe you have lots of questions which I'm going to entertain at the end of this class shortly. Okay, and while we're waiting for the file explorer to load up, okay, this is actually not a good practice. It's ideal you open your text editor and your browser before you start coding. You don't want to be switching between your text editor and then your browser to probably view the content of your of what you're doing. So okay, I'm having my file explorer taking time to load, so I'm just gonna go back into my code editor. Let's just take an overview of this. So basically what I've just done here is create a simple markup, okay, structure for my web page with a title and then the image element. Okay, so we're going to stop this video here for today, and then let's watch you practice and bring up your questions. Okay, All right. Thank you so very much for watching. I remain Mr.